Okay, so here I am. This is the third scenario in Kingdom of Heaven. This is the fall of the Caliphate, the invasion of Egypt. This is going to cover, I kind of misunderstood a little bit about it. This is going to cover some 20 years after the last scenario. Nur al-Din sends actually not Saladin into place. He sends one of his lieutenants here. I don't remember which one. I don't know if it's Shazar or Shakul, but who's essentially, I think, an uncle of Saladin. And Saladin ends up, well, amongst his many situations. I didn't see any cards for it, but Saladin's rise to power is rather interesting. A lot of people die in kind of strange circumstances rather rapidly. And that may include his uncle. It definitely includes Nur al-Din, Nur al-Din's son, a number of the Egyptian leaders that they're propping up. So he's kind of one of those very Machiavellian politicians, or else one of the luckiest people ever to be born. One suspects the former because he was also, a tremendous leader in so many ways that it's hard to not credit someone who's that ambitious, motivated, etc., with being, frankly, willing to murder people. And he certainly was willing to kill people. For example, the Templars and the Hospitallers that he captured. Hatton. Anyhow, the situation we have here. Oh, I wanted to bring something up about the last game. I left the neutral force pool with the Damascene and Egyptian forces in there, and I never brought them into their force pool when they joined the Saracen side. It could have had an effect, but I think the worst effect it could have had was maybe Damascus wouldn't have fallen, which I think would still be a Crusader victory. Just wanted to clear that up. Probably some people will notice it eventually. I don't know. I'm not sure. Unlike some of the games, people haven't played this all that much. I noticed that there's sort of this long turnaround. So, for example, with Infidel, it took months for some corrections to show up, whereas usually it's like, oh no, I know that game, man. No, you did it wrong. And, oh well. So, as always, don't pay too much attention to what I'm doing. I'm probably screwing lots of stuff up. So the situation here is kind of an interesting one. You have Egypt in the midst of a civil war. Two leaders. And they're calling for help from either Nur al-Din's Seljuks, which now cover the entire green area here. That's all Seljuk territory. It's all one ruler taking control of that, or from Almeric, the king of Jerusalem. And you can see Jerusalem's kind of extended down to the Red Sea here. Goes to about here, and then actually up to Beirut. And then we have Tripoli and Antioch as well. Edessa is gone, of course. We're following the historical. We don't have any kind of campaign linkage between the scenarios, and it would be tough to do it. The only game that I've seen I think do this is Grand Sequel, which kind of says play an interesting period and then play for a while where you're not really playing too hard. You're just kind of saying 20 years passed, almost like in a role-playing game or something, when you say 4 weeks passed, nothing interesting really happened. Maybe a little bit of narrative or whatever, but for the most part you don't really go into the details and play it out. Well, Grand Sequel does that, and I had been playing with that idea before I found that in Grand Sequel as a way around dealing with that kind of situation in, say, Imperium Romanum, where you can translate one scenario's effect into the next. I think that's a better solution than a game like, say, God Kings. Yeah, I know I rag on it a lot, but which says, each turn's 25 years. But we're going to give you more detail than like Britannia does. It causes problems when you start doing that. Anyway, with this, they didn't bother to put together a campaign scenario. They spent a lot of time producing this, and you get lots and lots of scenarios. So I wouldn't complain too much. You wouldn't be seeing me play whatever it is, 9 games of it. I don't know what it is. There's nine big crusades, but the game doesn't cover all of them, and it covers ones that aren't like this one. So this one's not a crusade, which makes it kind of interesting here. And let's see what we're going to see with this. Got the initial political situation set up. Now notice that Edessa, Antioch, and the Byzantines are all pro-Crusader, but they can be influenced using the chart here. I don't think they can be influenced against, well, certainly Tripoli and Antioch can't be brought to war with Jerusalem. That's one of the special rules. There's a number of ones here. The Civil War itself has special rules where when you enter Egypt, you get to declare for one of the two people, and then you control them. And then the other player controls the other one. And Egypt's going to be divided with units, force pool units getting replaced as they show up. For the most part, though, things don't demobilize. Only dead things are going to be coming back that way. Everyone who's not Fatimid in Egypt is going to have to demobilize no matter what. They can't maintain a long campaign the way we saw, say, in the other scenarios. And there's not going to be any foraging. No leader loss rule for the Fatimids. If they lose a battle where they'd have to check leader loss, they're going to be killed. They lose the Civil War. Now, there's a fickle Fatimids card, which I had to peek at. I don't usually like to look at the thing. Oh, Templars can't go into Egypt because the Hospitallers are supporting this, and of course the Templars hate the Hospitallers. And fickle Fatimids cannot be played on the last turn. This is basically a way that the game if the Civil War's over, I think the Fatimids just switch sides. This totally random card, and they just don't want the game to say, "Oh yeah, I won because of this." Well, if the Fatimids were really that fickle, and it seems they are when I read this, the leader leaves, and then when the support leaves, they switch sides, they call on other people, this, that, and the other. Really, really ugly kind of situation. What's not clear to me, let me see, either side. See, I think you get the command that you have forever. Anyway, if you win the Civil War, you get 1 victory point for that. The victory conditions for the game involve, in order to win this scenario, you have to have Cairo. And for the Christians, you have to have 26 victory points. For the Muslims, 14. So that's kind of indicating you didn't lose much. The Christians are at 21. Egypt is worth 5. The Muslims are at 9. So in either case, it's, hey, not only did you win Egypt, but you didn't lose anything in addition. And there are some things to keep some pressure on here, because you got the Byzantines. You've got kind of scary here, this Armenian stack. It's 4 units. That's a fairly powerful force. Completely neutral. Could end up going on either side. If you look at the Armenians, they're certainly more likely to go Christian than Muslim. They're a bit of a threat, and that's a fairly large stack that you can't really count on. For the most part, otherwise, the rest of the troops, there aren't any big stacks. The Christians, well, they have enough in Jerusalem to go with a little bit of fun campaigning. But here in Antioch and Tripoli, there's not really extra troops. Over here in Mosul, there's a nice big stack as well, all Cav again. Oh, we're seeing something interesting in Jerusalem as well. Cavalry. Now, obviously the knights have horses, but they're factored into those heavy Crusader and Crusader allied units that aren't necessarily so heavy. The infantry of the game. But the cav represented here is Jerusalem's beginning to use light cavalry, the harassment type cav. Not that they can really, shadow an enemy army with that. It's only 1 unit. But they can counteract some of the effects of the Saracen or Muslim light cav that's indigenous to the area. Anyway, guess we'll kick this off, deal out some cards, and get started. Our leaders look like we're going to have Almeric, because I believe the King of Jerusalem is the highest, as the person with initiative, and he's a very good leader. 1, 2, 6. Our primary opponent is probably our Seljuk here at 3, 2, 6. Well, not really sure where to proceed with this one. The Crusaders opened up by Amalric moving his way down towards Egypt. He doesn't have an easy way to get down there, but he figures if he can kick off the civil war with his choice, he'll be able to have an advantage. Now this puts the pressure kind of on the Muslims, and in their case, well, although they have a decent leader in Damascus, there's not much that he can really do. He's kind of weak in terms of strength points. All the focus of the strength was over in Mosul. So I slipped a little too much vodka. Nur al-Din through to lay siege to this Templar castle down here. He made a call to surrender, which failed. But now I'm kind of in this position where, well, the Crusaders don't really want to let him get through. How do they stop it? Neither side had any diplomatic cards to try to trigger, say, the Armenians into play here, for example, and neither side had any naval cards, which would maybe make things easier. The real problem for the Muslims is they don't have an easy way down into Egypt. Amalric has an easy route, well, somewhat easy route into Egypt at least, to kick things off. And the Seljuks have managed to take Gaston, and, well, the Crusaders marched down to Cairo, laid it under siege, trying to help Shawar here. And they may bring his troops into play, they may not. It's hard to tell which way makes more sense. So what we're seeing is the Crusader established siege here, which is at level 6. They've pulled the additional Egyptian forces up because the Crusader army is going to disintegrate and go back to Jerusalem. But by having the siege in place, because Egyptian armies don't disintegrate, means that, well, that siege is going to continue. I've got to be careful because the stacks all look the same there. Over here, we have Nur al-Din sieging Antioch, and he actually has a blockade in place there. He managed to get the Egyptian fleet to come up and help him. Again, that's a, hey, maybe I'll roll well enough and be able to keep the siege going. Since the Crusaders are out of cards, they're starting to take vassal moves, move Byzantines into place. And after disbanding, the Crusaders are out of Cairo, but the rebellion from Upper Egypt has made its way up, or north, lower down the Nile. The rest of the Crusaders are here in the box. Over here at Antioch, Nur al-Din has managed to maintain his siege, but he doesn't have a lot of forces. He only has 3 units with him. He sent the rest, well, the rest had to go back, and he sent the leader back as well so that he'd have someone to sort of shift over with the additional troops. That's going to be kind of painful, I think, but we'll see. Anyway, he's got a bit of a possible threat with the Byzantines or maybe the Armenians in place there. But otherwise, he's probably in fairly good shape, although he's maybe outnumbered by what's sitting in Antioch, which is a difficult situation, at least right now, which means the Crusaders could come out and break the siege. Oh, yeah, I'm going to send this one up now. We've gone far enough. We haven't really seen anything change hands. Right? Yeah.